Would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Gilroy.
I'll make a motion that council adopt the agenda with the one amendment, 8.5. I don't know if that's in here or not. Oh, it is. Okay.
It is.
No, 8.5 is already in here for the broadband support request. Okay, so I'll make the motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, and Rod, we had the one confidential item that wanted to go into closed session, but we have it on the agenda, so we're good there. Is that right?
It's not on the agenda yet.
Okay, so we do want to add that on. Like we do have item number 17, and I'll just put it down. It's human resources. So Brian, are you all right with that friendly amendment to add the one closed session?
Definitely. Thank you for bringing that up. I'd forgotten that.
Okay, all in favor? Michael? Oh, okay. All right. So moving on then, we have our scheduled delegation. But he hasn't tried to log in. I'm just wondering where he is at. Now, you sent him the meeting invite, Judy? Nancy?
I did, and it said he accepted it.
Oh, we did, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, he hasn't logged in. So why don't we move on, and then when he does log in, we can go back to him. So moving on, do we have any public delegations there tonight, Rod? No? Okay. So moving on then, we'll go to item 3.1, the Peace Officers Report. Can I get a motion on this one? Councillor Gilroy.
Call me anyway,
Yeah.
because I will move any motion that speeds us along. So I make a motion that council receive the Senior Peace Officers December 2020 report for information.
Okay. I know that our peace officer is in the building there. So is he going to speak about his report, Rod, or should we just see if we have questions for him? We can't hear you, Rod. No, it looks like Alan is coming in. Or maybe not.
He'll just, if you have any questions, he'll answer him.
Okay. All right, so I'll throw it open to council for any questions that they have. Councillor Gilroy.
In noting your report, you do note that the number of hours on patrol are changed because we do have one peace officer on desk duty.
That's correct.
My question concerning that is, when both you were working, there was a certain amount of desk duty you both did anyway.
Yeah.
So how have you found the balance of having a person there full time with you being the only one to patrol? Considering we still have those contracts with Falera and up north, and with the county and with our own town. How have we found the balance in there? Has she done more admin work for you, so you've been able to patrol more? And I just want to find out how it's working.
Yeah, she does, well, good 80-90% of the admin now. So that gives me ample enough time to fulfill our contracts with the county and Blair, McLennan, and Donnelly. So it's working out very good.
Okay, that was the main question I had, because we've always been concerned about the workload that both you had when we accepted those extra contracts, and I didn't want to make sure that we're not wearing you out too fast. On a different note, would you be able to just slip the RCMP one of our posters, since I can't get in there?
Yeah, I mentioned that to Rod. I can drop them off tomorrow. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, I just had one question. I noticed, and just a lot more warnings were issued in 2019 versus 2020. Perhaps you can talk to us about why so many more warnings last year versus this year.
It just obvious reasons. Less contact with the general public due to the COVID. So we only contact the people if we necessarily have to. If not, we don't actively make contact and do the complaints. Or if we do, it's going to be over the phone. But basically, because of the COVID, it's the numbers are down.
Okay. Well, all right. That sort of answers that one. Anything else from council? Seeing nothing, we'll move his report. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Okay. All right. I'm not sure if you were late, Michael, or if you had an opposition there, but we'll move on. We'll move on to the Public Works report. Can I get a motion on the Public Works report? Okay, Councillor Danaka. You're on mute, Donna.
Sorry. I make a motion that council receive the January 2021 Public Works report for information.
All right, thank you. And I guess with that, we'll throw it open to any questions. And we've got the masked bandit right in the middle of my screen anyways. Any questions? Councillor Gilroy.
Brian, if you'd be so kind to explain a little bit more about how the gas meter change program works. I see a certain number every year, and I'm just wondering, is there a rotation where every 5 years, whatever, we change them over, or is there still more to come? Or I just need a little help understanding that, please.
It has to be done every 10 years. Well, we're working with every 10 years now because we're putting in new meters because our other ones were very old. So we're budgeting so much a year to put in new meters, and they got a 10-year life expectancy before they have to be recertified.
Thank you.
Also, I'd just like to put out that they were in town last week to fix the street lights. I don't know if anybody's noticed. We're monitoring to make sure that they are still going to be working properly.
was going to be one of my questions. I did notice when I was driving by that they seemed to be working better, that people weren't sitting there forever.
Yeah, they were in here last Monday.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Vern. So, Councillor Danaka moved his report for information. All in favor? Yeah, okay, there it is. We must have a delay there. Moving on then to our meeting minutes for January 12th. Can I get a motion on those minutes? Councillor Gilroy?
The council approved the minutes from the January 12th, 2021 regular meeting of council as presented.
Okay, was there any errors, omissions in these minutes? Any changes needed? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, we got them. All right, so moving on to our January 7th regular meeting minutes of council. Can I get a motion on those ones? Councillor Stenhouse?
The council approved the minutes from the January 7th, 2021 special meeting of council as presented.
All right, thank you. Michael, you're just a little bit slow. I did see your hand coming up. I'll get you next time. Okay, and thanks, Councillor Stenhouse. Any changes needed to these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? All right. Okay, it is carried. Moving on then to our new business, letter of support for the potential high-level flight service station closure. Can I get a motion on this one?
Come on, Michael.
Yeah. You're up.
That council send a letter of support to NAV Canada regarding the potential closure of the high-level flight service station.
All right. Thank you for that. On the floor for any discussion on this item? I know it doesn't directly impact us, and it's not a close one, but I was thinking about it, and my thinking was, you know, it doesn't hurt to support one of our fellow communities. We need something in the future, so yeah, that's good. Councillor Gilroy?
Just for my thinking, I was looking at it for the water range. Forest fires can easily overwhelm us quickly, and I want as much ability for them to refuel and do all that stuff to protect, as well as the Northwest Territories. I think it's very important we protect the northern region, so that's why I'm in favor of it.
Okay, any other questions, comments on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It is carried. We have our intermunicipal collaboration framework agreement amendments. Can we get a motion on this one? Councillor Danaka?
Make a motion that council approve the Big Lakes County and Town of High Prairie Intermunicipal Collaboration Framework ICF Agreement amendments as presented.
Thank you. And maybe I'll open it to Rod for some comments on this.
Thank you, Your Worship. Annually, we take a look at the ICF to see if there's any wording changes, etc., that would be required. And so the recreation changes actually went through the recreation committee. In addition, those changes, as well as all others, went through the municipal committee. To summarize them, there's a lot of general housekeeping, so just changing words to be, I guess, clear, so nothing material at all. Tourism was one change. Tourism basically indicates that Big Lakes is no longer going to be proceeding with their aggressive tourism, action. But what we are going to do is work collaboratively to ensure that tourism information is posted on both of our websites in the same verbiage, etc. So we're going to be working that way. Broadband was also changed because, as you know, over the last couple of months, we've taken a little different directions. So we've eliminated that committee, but we still are still agreeing to collaborate and exchange information. So we're aware of what each other is doing to hopefully meet the ultimate goal of the entire region having broadband. Peace officers, just basically I'd call them some administrative changes again. In the contract it says basically we'd be producing 20 hours of peace officer work there a month. Some months it might be 18, some months it might be 23. So what we've indicated in agreement now is the ability to average things out. So every 6 months we take a look at exactly how many hours we were there. If we're a couple hours short or a couple hours over, we'd make up for the difference because there's a contract price per hour. So it's more of a, a balancing act from the accounting perspective. But, we're still going to be doing the 20 hours, but some might be a little bit higher and some will be a little bit lower. So it's just that ability to be a little bit more flexible. Also a change was the peace officers provided a quarterly report before, or at least that's what it's stated in the agreement, but actually practice has been that Ellen's been providing monthly updates, which they really appreciate. So seeing that's already been part of our practice, we're changing the updates to monthly. And a little bit of a change on the amount of notice Big Lakes would have to provide if they wanted to cease operations. So I think that's good on our side. Before, I think the agreement said something like 7 days notice they could provide us and then no longer utilize the peace officers. We indicated, well, that's kind of tough from the perspective because we have staffing and that type of thing and budget issues. So that was extended. I think those are the main changes with regards to the peace officers. Reference to enhanced policing was taken out because that's no longer something that occurs with the whole provincial changes and federal changes with regards to the policing model. We do receive, in theory, enhanced policing, but with how the funding model worked, we no longer have to contribute additional. So that was removed. And in recreation, there were a few changes here, mostly I think from the administration side, but one that's, that I had requested. Basically, in the service agreement, it talks about service levels. Both councils have to agree to certain service levels. If any changes to those service levels were occurred, we'd have to get the approval of both councils. So depending on how you read service levels, one can interpret them different ways. But I'll use this example. So right now, both councils are aware that, let's say at the pool, through all the budget changes and to enable us to hit the same numbers that we did the previous years from a budget perspective, we had to change the amount of hours that were open to the public. Basically, noon is what we're going to schedule to open and go till around 8. That was a change in service because before we opened early and had early morning swims, but now both councils, to address that budget shortfall, the service level is basically noonish. Well, as you know, one of the things that we do allow is joint use, but now that is a fee. So let's say joint use wanted to use it from 11 to 12, and they were to pay the fee. Well, that would actually then be an extended service, right, in theory, because we're actually opening up at 11 rather than 12. But we're considering that a minor adjustment. Let's say they wanted to rent it from 9 to 12. We would change it. We'd open up for them if we could accommodate them. We would minor adjustment to services, and those adjustments to that noon timeline, we would go or administer, and we'd go on our merry way. If, however, and we'd inform council at a later date, but that decision could be made at the Recreation Committee. If there were issues, let's say we ran into budget issues, and let's say nobody was in the pool, let's say Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Let's just say nobody showed up. We'd probably we'd go to the Recreation Committee first and say, nobody's going in the pool. We're not breaking even. We're recommending that we adjust, we close the pool those 3 days. That would be a major change. So that would actually then come to the two councils. So, because we're really reducing the number of hours. So basically, we're increasing it, we're making, at least breaking even, that would be considered minor, and we could get approval from the Recreation Committee. But if we're really, really changing things up, maybe in the future, let's say after COVID, things go crazy and everybody wants to swim and our pools are full, maybe we'll have to open a couple of the mornings because the pool's full. Well, that'd be a change in service, and we'd come back to council. So I know the definitions aren't perfect, but I think you get the intent. And so I'm hoping council approves that, because to go through two councils and all the meetings, by the time we'd make the adjustment, we might have missed that opportunity, especially with joint use, or somebody wanted to rent the pool for a birthday party that was outside the hours. Well, we should accommodate them because we're making the money. So I would just have to go to the Recreation Committee on that. That's the real change, the biggest changes in the document. And so, yeah, I'm open for questions.
All right, I'll throw the floor open if anybody has questions on this. While you're thinking, one of the things that I just wanted to add is with the changes to the rec committee stuff was, I think, increases in levels of service, as long as it wasn't costing money, you don't need to really go. I think that's a big change. Any reductions in service is more the concern. So I think that sort of clarifies it a bit. Is increases, go for it, because you got to stay within budget to make those work. Decreases would have to come to the councils to look at those. And yeah, so I think that was the one big change in there. All right, Councillor Gilroy, you had your hand up.
Just a clarification on the enhanced policing. If I'm not mistaken, we paid, I think, a certain amount of money, say $100,000, which was then last year reimbursed back to us. So it's not that we're not going to have the special enforcement agents. It's just that they're going to be incorporated into the unit, and we're not going to give the county the money, and they're not going to reimburse it. Is that how that's working? So we're just paying our own share?
Yeah, I could perhaps speak to that, and then Rod, you correct me if I'm wrong. But my understanding from this is that you're right, that there's no funds going towards enhanced policing now. We do have the funding that we have to pay for the provincial requirement to pay for policing, and they are guaranteeing for at least the next, I think it was 3 years is what I heard, that they were going to keep the enhanced policing around at those funding levels, and then after that they were going to relook at whether or not they would keep enhanced policing in our area or not. So right now it will actually be still a little bit less than the $100,000 we were paying at the provincial, for the provincial funding of policing. We're still at a little less, but as we move forward, because it was, I think, 25%, 50%, 100% in the years, and it's going up each year. And We're good this year, but probably next year will be up to 100,000 and maybe even a little bit more. I can't remember the exact funding formula that we'd be paying each year, but this year we're still underneath the 100, so we're saving a little bit. Is that correct, Rod? Yeah. And Rita's not either good. No. We actually had this chat not long ago. Okay, any other questions on the amendments to the ICF? Well, that was easy. Okay, seeing no other questions, all in favor of making the changes? All right, that is carried. Moving on then to the joint use agreement, item 8.3. Get a motion here. Councillor Stenhouse.
Administration send the attached letter to the school boards.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on this one? I know we've talked about it before. All right, I don't see any. So, all in favor? Opposed? Oh, I'm not sure if Michael's opposed or for, but it passes. You're coming in late. Oh, you're for it, okay. And moving on then to the item 8.4, meeting with Lesser Slave Lake Regional Tri-Council. A motion on this one. All right.
Let's get this discussion started. That council accept the invitation to meet with the Lesser Slave Lake Region Tri-Council.
Okay, thank you. Now I can give a little bit of a spin on this. I mean, originally we had the Lesser Slave Lake Economic Alliance that we were part of and part of that same area. And we know that that alliance fell apart. I think that what they're trying to do is resurrect that a little bit and maybe see how we can work together. There wouldn't be the funding that there was there before, but I think this is my impression from the letter is let's get the region together, see how we can work together a little bit more. So I think it's a good idea. Never hurts to have those conversations. Other thoughts, ideas on this? Councillor Stenhouse?
So I just want to get this clarified. This is an invitation for all of council. We're not going to form a committee here, are we?
That's a good question. I don't think it would be everybody attending this. I think it would be one or two.
But it says the invitation is for town council. So I'm assuming that we would set up a special meeting so that we could all attend this?
Again, I don't know for sure because the letter isn't very clear on that, but it would just be an awfully big group to bring 4 or more councils together. I'm not sure if this was sent to Big Lakes or not, but I would think that they might also be inviting Big Lakes to it also. But I guess at this point, I think they're just putting out feelers at this point to see if there's any interest in getting together. And if there is interest, then some more details around this could get formulated and worked out. This is just, hey, we're thinking this is a good idea. What do you guys think? Councillor Gilroy?
Can't hurt.
I do have a couple concerns with it. One, before I would fully accept an invitation like this, it would be nice to know the actual date of a meeting. Because there's really nothing that says when they're going to meet, it just says their deadline to respond by. Secondly, I would want to guarantee that we will not be a stepsister. And by that, I simply mean I don't want to be used, or I don't want our town to be used to further their objectives only. I want something that says that this will be a truly lesser slave area work, and not just us helping them grow their community. This has to be something where we are treated as an equal. Otherwise, I would not participate in it. Plus, I'd like to know if they invited any indigenous groups other than the Saw Ridge First Nation. Did they invite Deerfpile? Did they invite Sucker Creek? I mean, they're all along the lakeshore here. I'd like to know who all was involved and who all is going to go in order to see this as a regional type of vision that they have here. So I'm open to the meeting, but I don't want our town to be second class here. And I'm sorry to sound that way, but I want to make sure that we are treated equally in every...
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, obviously, they're not going to come out and say you're going to be treated in any other way at this point in time. But if we become members and we're finding it's not meeting our needs and it's, you know, your concerns become a reality, then we can obviously back out. There would be nothing keeping us there if we weren't satisfied or getting our money's worth out of this agreement, I would think, or these meetings.
Yeah, so as I said, I'd go with it as long as it means that we're not committing to anything, just committing to a meeting to discuss it, then bring it back to council before we make any sort of commitment.
Okay, other thoughts on this one? Councillor Tanaka?
I don't necessarily see an issue here. They're reaching out to see what interest is there, what mutual projects we can work on down the line or whatever. So at this point, agreeing to meet with them and see what exactly they are looking at, I have no problem with.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. There we go. All right. I think everybody's had their chance to speak on this one, so I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, okay. We'll call that carried unanimously. And moving on to broadband support request. Get a motion on this one? Councillor Gilroy?
I just had the printout here a minute ago. The council, you have to walk me through part of this because I can't find my page here now, but the council basically take it for information. So just fill in the blank there because I can't find the paper, but I just want the request presented for information.
All right. Okay, any comments on this one? Councillor Tanaka?
I agree with Councillor Gilroy to receive it for information. As Councillor Stenhouse said in her email, we put out an RFD. We met with two 3 people. We went through that whole process of evening meetings twice, 3 times. Saturday, we made a commitment in a sense to ExploreNet. I don't know why we're even entertaining a letter of support to ExploreNet. As the information says, if we're going to go that route, then anybody that wants to apply for a grant to put fiber optics in here, then we have to give them a letter of support too. And I don't agree, because we've made a commitment. We've made through council motion that we're going with Canadian Optics. That's what we decided. Let's carry on and move on. And
all right. Other thoughts on it? I'll give you another way of looking at it, or sort of what I was thinking with this, is that I totally agree. We made the commitment. We've done the RFDs. We've gone through that proposal process, and we are committed to Canadian fiber optics. And in no way, shape, or form do I think that we need to renege on those commitments to Canadian fiber optics. With that being said, there is this other company that is, I'm going to say, a very large company when you compare it to Canadian fiber optics and the other companies that have applied. This is a major, provider in Canada. You look at them, ExploreNet's been buying up. They just bought CCI Wireless. They've been buying up other ones. I don't know. I think they're probably, already delivering this service to a lot of clients. They're delivering internet now. They've got a lot more experience than anybody that applied to us. They are also looking at, from their letter, a regional approach, which is very similar to what Canadian Fiber Optics is proposing. So when I look at this, and my sort of take on it is, I want to see fiber in High Prairie. I don't care as much who puts it in. I want to see it in High Prairie. It's more important to me that fiber gets here than who puts it in. The federal government, this is my thinking, is the federal government might be looking at ExploreNet a little bit more favorably in terms of a grant application, because they are a lot bigger company. They have a lot more experience delivering internet to smaller rural areas. So for me, I'm just thinking of what are the chances of getting the grant. The government may be willing to, or might look at them better because they're a larger corporation with more resources, maybe to get the job done, than anybody else that we had talked to. So from that point of view, I think it wouldn't hurt to give them a letter of support. I don't think, in my opinion, that it's going to hurt the Canadian fiber optics proposal. And if they did happen to give it to ExploreNet, that's fantastic. We still get the coverage. So that's the way I'm looking at it, is it covers our base. We might be able to get it if it comes through them. Great. That's the way I'm sort of looking at it. Councillor Tanaka?
so if that's the case, then why did we go through an RFP and go through all those meetings, talking to Rock Auto, as Rod calls them, and going through, and if they were so interested in coming here, why did they not respond to the RFP that we put out? I mean, Rock Auto there from Ontario responded. So, again,
You know,
we went through this whole process, and now we're going against the whole process, which to me is ridiculous.
Yeah. I'll just speak on your question, and then I'll get Councillor Gilroy. If you remember, that process was very, very quick, and it was just before Christmas. It is very possible that they never even saw our request for proposal because we didn't send it to them, and they didn't reach out. They are a much bigger telecom company that may not. There might be others that are looking to apply for our area too. I mean, TELUS could be putting in a request for those dollars too, and we don't know about it. So, I guess, I know what you're saying, Donna. That's why they may not have done it at that time. Councillor Gilroy?
Well, as probably everyone knows that I'm very much against this letter of support for a number of reasons. We have spent a lot of staff time, administrative staff time, and energy setting up where we have been doing. We have already met with with CFO, with Canadian Fiber. We've been working on them. We've been saturating the media as well as doing everything we can to get people to work with them. And at the same time, when we did send out the proposals, we actually rejected one for being late. We rejected one for being late. There were a number that we could have gone with that were inundating Rod. That's why we did the request as it was. And all of them gave up plenty of time for this. Now, if I were, and I'm not a petty person, but if I were one of these companies and I found out that we sent a letter of support and we had no clue what that actually meant as to if it was going to cost us anything or what it actually meant to our community versus what we've invested here, I would actually be, no offense, but I'd probably be tempted to do some litigation here because a contract is a contract and you don't do side contracts. I just think that this is very unethical. It's like Vern putting out a contract for a road, and then suddenly we decided, well, before they start the road, let's bring somebody else in and see if they get a better bid, or if they can get a grant before we get the grant for the road. I mean, we need some integrity in here, and that's what I put this as a matter of integrity. And I don't think it's fair to a Peace River Country firm because at the same time, this Universal Broadband Fund is for all of Canada. And there's no way, if I'm in the federal government, that I'm going to give 2 grants to the same region. So if we support it and they lose out, we're affecting our neighbors. And I'm sure I've heard 1,000 times you say, we need to support our neighbors in this. Well, Diane came and she passionately asked for our help. We chose to help her. This is not helping her, not helping their case. And it'll just confuse the public. So I am virtually very much against this.
Okay. Other thoughts? Councillor Long?
Well, I think everybody's pretty much expressed what I'm thinking. They came to us in good faith, and we negotiated with them in good faith. And to not have confidence in our business partner and try to play both sides of the fence, I don't think it's distasteful. And so I know how important it is, and you see it from a lot of different ways, Brian, in regards to the importance for us having broadband. I think it'll get here, and I think we just need to be patient, as with everything else this year. Just patience. They'll be successful, and if not, we need to. If we have concerns, that Canadian fiber optics isn't going to be successful, then we need to be lobbying our MP and the minister responsible so that they know we support that bid. So yeah, I'm following Donna and Brian and Judy all the way through this.
All right, Councillor Stenhouse, I don't know, I think from your emails you weren't in favor, but I'll just throw it open and see if you have a comment to add.
Like I said, I stated it in my email. I see where you're coming from also, that fiber optics may not get the contract and maybe Xplornet does. But I'm still standing by those other 4 companies. They scrambled over Christmas to get in their bids and to present to us at all hours of the night. We jumped through all the hoops. I'm sticking to integrity and loyalty to what we've done so far. I'm sticking with fiber optics, Canadian fiber optics.
Okay. Well, I see where most people are at, and I totally understand where you guys are coming from too. I do. I just don't, in my view, it wouldn't hurt to send one. We're not, we're going to work with Canadian Fiber Optics. We're building what I think is a pretty good package to put forward there, where we're going to have letters of support. We're going to have lots of speed tests done, all of those great things, and we're putting, I'm very happy with Canadian Fiber Optics. I'm just putting on the hat of the federal government and looking at where they might put some money. And that was, I don't know if it'll really change whether we give a letter of support to them or not, but it just shows that if they were to get it, we might be able to, they might look more favorably upon us. If we don't give Xplornet a letter of support and they do get the contract, because they're putting it in for our region anyways. Councillor Gilroy's comment that we got to support our neighbors. Their proposal is to, come through the north area, not just into High Prairie. This is a regional project, or at least that's what they're saying. That's my concerns there. So, Councillor Gilroy.
If we choose this for information, would it be possible for our administration to write a letter that simply says, I'm sorry, but if this request had been received earlier, prior to commitments we have made, we would have given it due consideration. Something to that effect, saying that, hey, I'm sorry, but you're too late. We would have given you every opportunity, but you're just too late. We've already committed to a plan of action. Because, with the deadline for the CFOC stuff is February 3rd, which is what, next Thursday? I think. Is it Thursday or Wednesday? I forget what day. So I'm just saying a nice letter so that at least they have it on file that we would have committed, but we've already committed before their request came in.
Yeah, I certainly, if we're not going to send a letter of support, getting in touch with them and letting them know why, I think would be important. Just so that they understand, so that they don't, if they do get the contract, I would hope that they don't forget about us and bypass us and spend their capital putting fiber into another community that did write them a letter of support. That would be my only things. All right, no use belaboring this. I see where everybody is going. We'll call the question. We had the motion to receive the request for information. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, moving on to the request to waive fees. Can I get a motion on this one? Councillor Stenhouse?
The council received the request to waive the full amount of invoice number 202000668 for the fire call to 4709 52nd Ave for information.
Thank you. I'm going to throw it over to our CAO perhaps to start and say what's the recommendation there, the rationale, if we can hear that.
Yes, Your Worship. Just so you know, at some points we don't hear everybody. Fortunately, Vern's iPad is working, so sometimes we try to listen to his. So just sometimes we miss a little bit of what you're saying. I just wanted to let you know that. So sometimes I've shaken my head, and it's not because of what you're saying. It's more technical problems. So yes. So the town has a fee in place, a fee by law for doing certain work, and in this situation, although extremely disappointing and sad, there's still costs associated with putting out a fire and cleaning the site. Absorbing the $6,000 basically means everybody else in the community has to pick up a portion of that, and a lot of those other people have actually paid to have their homes insured. So most people know that if you have property, you typically get it insured. And unfortunate situation that this property owner received. I think everybody knows that they should have insurance if they have a huge investment in property, and so. For those reasons, administration is recommending that we do not refund or cancel the in excess of $6,000 charge associated with putting out the fire on this property. So it's it's unfortunate, but like at least at this point, we believe that other property owners should not have to make up for somebody that decides not to purchase insurance on their property.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on this one? Councillor Gilroy?
I really wish that we could have been able to intercede a little bit for him on behalf to help the insurance company to pay for this. I guess for the simple reason, if we look at, and if our community looks at the fact that we just had to buy a new fire truck, which is, what was it, $500,000 for the fire truck, plus the amount we spent on rollout gear, oxygen tanks. There is so much, and it's not that we're trying to get the money off of the insurance companies. It's just that the procedure is to send it to the insurance company first, I believe, to not have the owner have to fight first. But we do have to find a way, without adding to taxes, whether we're in the town or county, we have to find a way to set the money aside for this, for replacing aging fire equipment and that, and it gets very expensive. And I do know that according to our fire chief, I forget whether it's Trevor or Ken Melnick, that if we ourselves do not have an adequately run fire department, then it affects everybody else's insurance period too. So it's a very challenging thing, and I'm sure that our administration would work out some very good payment plans on this to be very patient in order to get the whole thing. So I think they can work something out if I know our administration. So unfortunately, it's a very tough call for us.
All right. Anyone else to comment? No. I'll echo some of those things. I believe, that in the past we had a similar request for the same reasons that they, and I can't remember how long ago it was, but we did have a request because there was fees associated with the fire, and we did say no, you had to pay. So I think we're being consistent with applying that rule. It is it's really unfortunate. That's a big price tag, and I know that they're getting hit with this price tag to put out the fire, plus they have to tear down their property and rebuild, and there's no money there. Like, this is a huge loss for the person. And it sounds like, in here they had no fire insurance on this property due to an error in the renewal process. To me, if that's terrible in that, and it's a terrible cost, but I guess we're being consistent with what we've been doing in the past. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Any other comments? No, we have a motion to receive for information. All in favor? It is carried. Moving on then to item 10.1, the fees bylaw. Get a motion on this one. Councillor Danaka.
I make a motion that council give first reading to the fees bylaw 02/2021 this 26th day of January 2021.
Thank you. I know Rod had mentioned a change that needs to be made in here. Maybe I'll throw it open to him to start, and then we can go from there.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, there is, I guess, one administrative issue with regards to the agenda, or pardon me, the table of contents. Number one, it says dog licensing and fees. It should be dog and cat licensing fees. That we probably could just change on our own because it is strictly administrative. The one that's, I guess, more substantive, but is just a typo. If you go to page 4 of the bylaw of Schedule A, there is under the cat licensing fees, it says yearly license fee for neutered, spayed dogs and cats of $100. That fee has always been there, but it should read lifetime. So that fee was there before, although it didn't say yearly, so we don't know how it got changed. But it should read lifetime, and that would be no change from the previous bylaw. So so those are I guess that's definitely one that we'd like amended. As far as the fee bylaw itself, the fee bylaw did go through our bylaw committee. I guess in a nutshell, one of the things that we did do is we surveyed about 10 municipalities looking at their fees in comparison to ours. What we did find is a lot of our fees were pretty conservative. And so on most of them, not all of them, but most of them, we moved, or the bylaw committee was accepting of the recommendation to move to around the average. But that's not on all of the fees, but for a significant number around the average. I think one of the things that the town and municipalities are struggling with is balancing the books. Unfortunately, services and service levels remain the same, but unfortunately our costs go up. I know council and other councils are attempting to keep their tax increases minimal. one of the ways of doing that is actually implementing service fees to those services that people utilize. So rather than subsidizing the administration of some of these fees through the tax base, it's more of a user pay on fees. So if you believe in a philosophical, I guess, argument that when you're utilizing fees that are specific to an individual, that those people pay for them, that's more what this fee bylaw is trying to reflect. So yes, moving from a taxpayer-funded subsidy to a fee structure that would be more, I guess, cost recovery. So that's the general intent. I'm not going to go through each of the fees that are proposed to be changed, but that's the general intent behind it.
Okay, thank you. I see Councillor Stenhouse and then Councillor Gilroy.
So I have a question for our CAO, or could be for our treasurer, just for information on this bylaw on dog and cat licensing. Does that have its own account, or does that go into the general revenue? And why I'm asking that is, if the cat and dog licensing had its own account and said that this was going to support in the woods animal shelters, or we were doing something to control stray cats and dogs with this money that's collected from the licensing, that maybe we would have better compliance with our residents, knowing that these licensing fees are going to a good cause for the animals?
So I think I can answer that, or Rita, you can chime in if I'm incorrect. Currently, we don't do that. A list of we are hoping to change the way we do our sponsorships and gift in kind. Actually, in a later policy we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. But the one that you're specifically talking about, we do not provide donations to any of those groups. I completely agree with you, and a lot of things, especially on the fine side and that type of thing, you can target some of those monies to other initiatives to curb different behavior, or to go to a cause to assist in another matter within a municipality. So I completely understand what you're saying, and it's something that a lot of places do. So I mean, it's something we consider, but we're not doing it now.
All right, thank you. Councillor Gilroy?
Well, I just wanted to point out in the business licensing bylaw part, in under permits on page 4, that we expanded the way in which we were looking at the permits, because that's what we heard from the community. We heard from the community that there are certain, we'll call them, whether it's trucks that come in to do from Grand Prairie or from Edmonton or someplace like that is here just for a day or so, or to sell tools, or something like that. We've heard from the community that they believe that there should be a different rate for those who are not contributing at the same level. And so we actually added a secondary level in there, which was regional, part of Big Lakes County, because a lot of our shop owners as well live in Big Lakes County. So I just want to point out that this council and this bylaw committee was listening to the business community when we were going through this. And I think it's important that we acknowledge the fact that we do listen when the people speak.
Okay, I'm just wondering, when we talk about the business licensing, and fill me in on what's the purpose of doing the business licensing. What's the reason that we have, the costs on there. I know we want to keep track of which businesses are in town, but we're obviously not making any money from this. It's more of just a registration point of view. Is that, what's the purpose of collecting the funds for that?
So, first, I think as far as revenues on the license side, we're in excess of $10,000. I think it's closer to 15,000. I think Rita, maybe you can confirm that or not. I think it's 16,000 exactly. So there is significant revenues there. As far as a business license and its purpose, one of the things it does do is it ensures that businesses are complying with bylaws. So when a business opens, if they have to get a business license, it gives us an extra check to ensure that they're complying with the land use bylaw. What it also does is that if a business is not complying by certain rules, it enables a municipality to actually rescind their license or temporarily, rescind it until certain behavior is corrected. So those are a couple things that it does do. I can say that, there are a lot of municipalities that do not do business licenses. There are some that even are getting out of the business license game. So it is something that council may want to look into. I can say though that again, it is $16,000 in revenue. So I mean, if we were to eliminate that, we'd have to find basically a 0.5%. So we generate about $32,000 for every 1% tax increase. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some municipalities, if they remove a fee, and let's say it's associated with the non-residential property tax class, they simply transfer that fee to the property tax, and it's basically a revenue neutral from the business perspective. So they're, at the end of the day, the tenant is the one that pays the bills. If they got to pay the town $50 and their property taxes are X to their landlord, usually that $50 we transfer to the property tax, which they end up paying anyway. So it's usually a wash regardless. It is a little different in that your larger taxpayers, if they're a single tenant, if you increase non-residential taxes by 1%, certainly your large property tax owners would be picking up more of that, let's say $16,000 that's lost. But again, that's just that's how it works. But generally speaking, it's something that council can consider. Obviously I wouldn't do it this year. I mean, we've already levied the business licenses for 2021, and those businesses licenses went out at the $50, and there's again no increase proposed here for local businesses. But if you want, we could look into it next year.
Thank you. No, the reason I was asking is I'm just, I notice, $50 or $100 if they're from the county seems reasonable. If somebody's coming in for a short term, the non-resident at $300, I'm wondering if we're keeping some of the businesses out of our community because of that. That's what I'm wondering. I know, and the other flip side of that is, are they going to start trying to beat the system and not pay? Do we have that happening out there already, even at $50 or $100? And if we go to $300, are we just going to be shooting ourselves in the foot trying to collect that extra little bit of money? I mean, big companies that are coming in to do a major project, $300 is nothing. I think of, I'll use the example of Stuart Olson coming in to do that major project for Heart River House. $300, they're going to pay it. They're doing business in town. But if you're coming in for a smaller purpose and they have to spend $300, you got to do a fair amount of business to recoup that business license cost. Are we scaring people away by having it that high? Because it was 100 before, is that correct?
Yes. Maybe I'll let maybe Councilor Gilroy wants to respond. I can let him, if that's.
Well, first of all, it's a year-long license, and that's one of the ways the bylaw committee looked at it. It's a year-long. A person, for example, will say one of the fish trucks that comes in, or someplace like the BC fruit truck that comes in. They come in multiple weeks, so it's not really a $300 for one shot. It goes the number of times that they come. It lessens the percentage of what they'd be paying. But I think it's very important that if by having a permit here, if the people of our community have some concern with the way in which a company is doing business that comes from outside of the area, at least we have a recourse to protect our citizens by saying you need a permit. And if they do not, or if they have a number of complaints against them, we can then say, sorry, but we're rescinding your permit. So I think it's part of a protection for our community when it comes to this, and it's a full year, so they can come as often as they want within a year, and it makes it less and less each time. So, so this is what this is part of the reason we were looking at it.
Okay, other comments, questions on this one? You know, I'll just go back to the businessing license. Like if you are in town and you have a business, well, you have to pay taxes also, right? I get that. And so if we're somebody that just pops in, they're not having to pay the taxes. But wherever they're based out of, they still have to pay the taxes. So I'm just wondering if I guess my other thought is, what are they charging in other communities for the non-residential license? How are we sitting there? Rod, you had mentioned that you tried to look at others and tried to be in the middle of.
I think this was one, I didn't bring my massive spreadsheet here, but this was one the committee actually decided to keep lower. So I'm sure if I looked at the overall averages, they would be significantly more, like significantly. I've seen them as high as like $1,000 my past life. I don't know if it was one of the 10 that we surveyed this go round, but I've seen them significantly more. There are a couple schools of thought. Like I can appreciate, especially if there's no business in town doing that service, just because it's a one-off type thing. And you're already, as a Hyperion, you're already paying that business to come, and they're likely charging travel time, et cetera, et cetera. So there's some of those situations that are really unfortunate. I think one of the reasons that I think Councillor Gilroy indicated, it's especially if there's businesses in town that are providing the services, they're paying the taxes, and therefore they're contributing to the overall services that Hyperions are receiving. So an external consultant or an external contractor coming in to take some of that business away from them takes business out of our local economy. So I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. I've heard those arguments. Bylaw committee felt this was fair. Implementing it. But it was a way of distinguishing, I guess, somewhat protecting our.
You were breaking up quite a bit there, Rod, on that one, but.
Yeah. You are too.
Okay, any other issues on this feed bylaw? Just going back to one other thing, Rod, you made as a comment right at the start about there's 1A is dog licensing fee, 1B is cat licensing fee. Can't hear, eh? Can others hear me?
No, I can.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to clarify when you did the opening remarks, you talked about the animal control bylaw. You talked about dog licensing fees and cat licensing fees. You thought that it should be just one dog and cat licensing fees? Because right now it's broken down into two groups, dog fees and cat fees. Can you just clarify that for me?
So I did miss most of what you said. So yeah, they're separated, and I heard you asking the question about what I said at the very beginning, and that was the amendments to the bylaw as proposed, which was to include in the table of contents just basically dog and cat licensing and fees, and under 1B, that yearly license fee for neutered dogs and cats be changed to lifetime. Yearly change to lifetime.
Okay, thank you. So that was in the table of contents where you wanted to add the word cat into that as opposed to not in the bylaw itself. Okay, that's where I was. Thank you. I see Councillor Gilroy, then Councillor Stenhouse.
Mr. Mayor, you brought up a very good point there. If you look at Schedule A, we have 1A, B, B, C. So my suggestion is that we pass it the first time, send it back to bylaw to just make sure it's done accurately before we do the second reading, so we're not spending all night on some of these things. That's just a suggestion, but that is the typo that needs to be addressed.
Okay, Councillor Stenhouse.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say, that there's two Bs under animal control bylaw.
All right. Anything else on this one before we vote on the first reading? Councillor Long?
The changes themselves are really small. Or is there not a way that we can just send it to administration to have it fixed, and then they could present it to us online just to show that it's been done?
Yeah. Like,
should we
really,
not be able to approve the file sort of structure the way it is already? Because the changes are rather small.
Yeah, like really, in a bylaw when there's administrative things. Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, I would say like the A's and B's and the C's.
Now I can.
The A's and B's and the C's, that is administrative. There is a couple zeros that are added in some of the other tables. Those types of things can be changed even after it's passed. It's not changing the intent of the bylaw, which administration can't do, but small things like as far as adding a period or a line on the bottom of the tables, which we're going to clean up a little bit once we get it out of the report format, those would be considered administrative and we could do. So but the biggest one is really that lifetime. That is you would have to make that change. The A, B, and C, that's purely administrative that we can do.
So let me ask this, is there we can give it readings now, we could bring it back. Is there a rush to get this through in this particular meeting? Or can we give it back and have it come back next meeting with all of...
Yep, there's no significant rush. There's there's the odd thing that will be happening over the next 2 weeks, but I think it's very, very minimal on the fee side. If we do have to charge them, we can absolutely make those administrative changes plus that yearly to lifetime, and get the 2 or 3 readings this go around and do the final reading at the next meeting. And maybe that's even a better way of doing it because there are a lot of changes, and having the it public for the next couple weeks. So yes, it's not catastrophic in the old way it was because our bylaws expired. But as you know, in December we removed that clause that expired all of our old fees, so we don't have much risk at all this go around.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have first reading on this one. Is there any other comments before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor of first reading? Opposed? I'm not sure where Michael's voting here. Michael, were you for or against?
I'm in favor. First reading.
All right, thank you.
Everybody else is frozen. I've been looking at Donna exactly the same way for about an hour.
I hope she paused in a good spot where...
Same with Judy.
Hello. Okay, do we want to do second reading or bring it back for second and third? We can do second reading. I see Judy nodding. She wants to make a motion. Go ahead.
The council gives second reading to the fees bylaw 02-2021, this 26th day of January 2021.
Thank you. Any comments before we vote? Okay, all in favor? All right. I think there's a time delay getting to Michael because you're always a couple of seconds behind. All right. And with that, we'll let administration bring it back next meeting for the third and final reading. All right. Moving on to item 10.2, the establishment of a municipal planning commission. Get a motion on this one. Well, I see Michael's brought his iPad. He's unkeyed. I'll let him go.
Council give first reading to the Municipal Planning Commission bylaw 052021, this 26th day of January 2021.
Thank you. Questions, comments on this one? All right, I don't see anything. I know we've sort of talked about this one before, so we're pretty happy with the changes then. Seeing no comments, all in favor? All right, that is carried. Second reading. Councillor Stenhouse.
The council gives second reading to the Municipal Planning Commission bylaw 05-2021, this 26th day of January 2021.
Okay, one more time. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, that passes. And option 3 now, do we want to go to that? Councillor Long?
Council give unanimous consent to proceed to the third and final reading of Municipal Planning Commission bylaw 05-2021.
All right. All in favor? passes. So the final one, Councillor Danaka, I know you were a little bit slow last time. I'll give you the last reading.
That council give third and final reading to the Municipal Planning Commission bylaw 05-2021 this 26th day of January 2021.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Woohoo! Okay, moving on to proclamation and letter of support. Is there a motion on this one? And Councillor Danaka.
Make a motion that council approve policy COU-74-2021, proclamation and letter of support.
Okay, any comments on this one? All right, I don't see anything looking around. Okay, if there is none others, all in favor? Oh, that was an easy one. Moving on to the sponsorship policy. Motion on this one? Okay, go Councillor Long this time.
That council approves COU-46-2020 sponsorship policy.
2021, Michael, not 2020.
What? Thank you. 2021 sponsorships policy.
All right. Questions, comments on this one?
Easy peasy.
No? All right, all in favor? That passes. And moving on then to another policy, the flag policy. We have a motion on the flag policy.
Nobody wants to touch it.
Councillor Gilroy.
The council approved policy ADM 602021 flag policy. We did have our committee did want some feedback from the council on this one.
Can I ask, what was the changes that you made here? They weren't really highlighted, so I'm just wondering what the changes were.
Yeah, so there's two general ones. There's the first with regards to the ones where all three flags are lowered. One of the things that was brought up is there was always a recognition on Remembrance Day. However, the federal and provincial government used something called special days to identify other days of significance. So that was something that the committee added but wanted to talk about, because it is a raising and lowering of flags more often, additional costs, but it is something that's recognized at the provincial and federal levels and most municipalities. The one that's the bigger changes are associated with the we're added a few pieces, and it's in the middle of the report under discussion options and benefits, and adding people deceased that are currently employed by the town, past employees who were long service employees, and I mean, we're just kind of picking numbers of 20 years plus. Maybe community members that made significant donations to the town. They picked a number, which sounds very, very cold, but we didn't know, what else to do, so we picked the $20,000. Or community members that donated in excess of 20 years of service to, volunteer organizations. And I think one of the things here is that the old policy basically indicated that anybody could just recommend or request through the CAO to lower the flag. And like one of the things that I brought up, unfortunately, there's probably a death in our community, every week. And so really, in effect, their flag could be lowered all year round. And it didn't sit right with me to make that call on who to lower and who not to. And so really having, I guess, some better clarity would assist in making that decision. So those are the main changes. There's also the community flag, which is just putting a process in place for it. We have that one flag in front of Town Hall that, in fact, very few organizations or groups take advantage of. But we're asking for an application process in case we get two organizations at the same time that want to use the flag at the same time, or the flagpole at the same time. We put time constraints on it. 2 weeks, but it can be extended to 4 weeks if the duration of their event goes over that period of time, if no other user group wants to use that flag. But just putting a few more parameters around it to hopefully, I guess, avoid any maybe embarrassing moments. So I think the committee and maybe even administration struggled with some of the parameters, especially around community volunteers. Putting dollar figures to things does seem cold, but just wanted some clarity because we do know that there's very influential people in the community that donated a lot of time and money that likely most people in the community know and would likely be surprised if the flag wasn't lowered for those. But where do you draw the line?
All right, I'll throw it open for questions or comments on this. Councillor Gilroy?
As I said when we made the motion, the bylaw committee was looking for input, so may I suggest that the non-bylaw committee members make the first input, since that's what we were looking for, which would be you and Judy.
All right, I'll see Judy's got her hand up. I'll let you go, Jude.
Okay, I actually like the parameters you set. It gives some structure to it so that we know what we're doing. My question is, are the flags going to be lowered on all these dates that are listed here? April 9th, April 28th, June 23rd? Or is that the discretion of the CEO?
No, so those are considered the special days. So that's one of the things to talk about. Those special days, the Battle of Vimy Ridge, persons killed in workplace, etc. Those days, actually, the federal and the provincial buildings actually lower their flags, as do a lot of other jurisdictions. So you're right, it is a lot more days. That's, again, more, it's just one of the things to talk about.
Okay. Because when the flags are lowered, you're making a significant, people notice. People really notice. You're making a significant statement when you lower those flags. So lowering them too often, I don't want to take away from the importance of lowering them. Do you know what I'm saying? So maybe, like, I'm thinking those 7 days that are listed, I'm thinking we need to vote on them or to the discretion of the CAO, because we'll be lowering the flag a lot of times.
Mr. Mayor, we can't hear you. Up here. Drop the mic.
Thank you. Talking. I was just commenting that I agree that I mean, out of the 7 days, everybody recognizes Remembrance Day, but I'm not so sure about April 9th, the remembrance for the Battle of Vimy Ridge, or April 28th. A lot of those other dates I'm not sure are common knowledge. And it's going to raise a lot of questions. Why are we lowering the flags on those? And people will be wondering. So from my perspective, and it's and a lot of those we have in some cases recognize those days and we can put them on our website, that kind of thing. But going the extra step of lowering the flags might add more confusion. I would say not to lower the flags on those other days. Maybe keep Remembrance Day in there, but the other ones, yeah, I would say it's just going to add to confusion. And as far as the comments about which member of the community we would consider lowering the flag from, that's a tough one always to come in. And I know, yeah, it's tough to put numbers on it. Like, what if you worked in the town for 18 years and not 20, you don't get the flag raised. It just seems like a number is a hard place to make a line. So I might, something of that, or at the CAO's discretion or something like that, because, and I know that's a tough spot to be in for a CAO. Well, it's 18, do I lower it? Because it might be one person, but not the next. So, yeah, I don't know. Putting some numbers there certainly helps. And then if there's exceptions, we could certainly look at them, I suppose. Councillor Long and Councillor Gill.
So, for those of us who don't remember, the countless hours that we spent on this flag policy was ad nauseum. It went on, and then somebody complained that we left something out. And then somebody else said, why the heck do you spend so much time? I remember Jim Perry was not a happy camper. All you guys do is argue about flags. So, I think it's a good policy. There's hard dates in there, and there's some of those soft dates, but things like, you picked out too, Vimy Ridge and April 28th, but April 28th, for a lot of people, has a lot of significance and a lot of meaning. I being one of those people. But, so injuries to workplace, I think it's something that we need to keep on being cognizant of and respectful of the fact that people have lived and died and were maimed trying to do their job. So I don't know. I think it's a good one. But what's important to me is not necessarily important to somebody else, and I get that. But let's put this one to rest once and for all. No more. Let's Rod decide on this one. Please.
Okay, Councillor Tanaka. Oh no, Councillor Gilroy had his hand up at the same time, and I was going to go to him and then to you, Councillor.
If our CAO, since this is a policy that's supposed to go beyond any CAO, I would say we need probably to, we'll add just one more thing in there that says that the CAO is able to come to the council for clarification on any decision. I'm thinking in that second section, you know, that one he's that says about the $20,000 or the 20 years or whatever. I want to give him the ability that if he's having trouble making a decision, that he can just contact council, maybe not at a council meeting, but get input from the council to help him make his decision. So give him the ability to do it, knowing that the council will give any sort of advice that they can to help him along with this decision. But I know that we automatically, last number of years, we've automatically put in the 28, because I remember voting on that one. We have, a number of these we have been asked to vote on every single year. The Firefighters National Memorial Day, the Police and Peace Officers Day, Remembrance Day. I don't remember doing the Violence Against Women one, or the Battle of Vimy Ridge. But as I said, it could be that our CAO decides which are the ones that he really that we really need to put down here that affect our community a lot, and others he could just put as a banner on top of our on our website, or even put it on the electronic board. It doesn't necessarily have to be a flag going down.
Councillor Danaka?
I just want to reiterate what Councillor Long said. We come back and we deal with this ad nauseum because we have a proclamation for workers injured and killed on the job. We've dealt with that every year. This basically clarifies it. I mean, if we choose to lower the flag for, as Councillor Gilroy said, Vimy Ridge, so be it. I mean, we always put it on our electronic board why the flags are lowered, so people do know. And this just clarifies the whole flag policy, so we don't have to deal with this on a constant basis at a council meeting because we're getting a proclamation for this, or a proclamation for that, or a request for this, or a request for that. Let's just do it, be done with it, and move on.
Okay, just on that point, I think there's a difference between a proclamation and the lowering of the flags. I totally agree with you about, we get all of the proclamations, and I think that's different than lowering the flags on some of these. So we're still going to get requests to do proclamations. It's just a question of whether or not we lower the flags for those. And again, in my opinion, I think it's just going to add to confusion. I definitely think once we get a proclamation and these other dates, and I don't want to minimize them at all, they're all important to some people. Wearing the flag would cause more. I would be happy to say, we're going to recognize these days on our websites and, that it gets posted there. But what happens then, having it in a policy like this, if it gets forgotten about and, for me, I would rather not have it in the policy. But in something about proclamations to say, yeah, we will recognize these dates for proclamations, so if they come to our council, we don't have to deal with them. All right, well, this is an interesting. I don't know if we've all come to agreements on some of this one, or if I've got a good feel of where people are at on these, on the flag lowering for the special days. I think everybody's all right with trying to put some parameters around who the flag would be lowered for, but I don't know. I know there's been some questions from people around those dates. So, any other comments before we vote on this one? Councillor Stenhouse?
Okay, so your last comment got me thinking, and you're right, putting it in a policy, and then if it gets forgot, then what's going to happen? So what are you saying? What are you saying we do with this policy? Are we voting on it? Are we going to change it, or?
Well, right now, I would rather see those special dates taken out. I think it just keeps cleaner. Like those are, it's a different issue than those special dates by putting them on our website, not necessarily lowering the flag, in my opinion. So that's where I'm coming from. Go ahead, Councillor Danaka.
I don't have a problem with the policy to remove some of those dates, like April 8th, Bimini Ridge, etc. But April 28th, as far as I'm concerned, really needs to stay in there.
Yeah, if we had 2, I think that could be more manageable than 7. Remembrance Day is one where I could say we'd lower the flag also. Councillor Gilroy?
If you're looking at 4.4, the duration of timing and a half-mast flags for special days will adhere to the guidelines set out by the Government of Canada and Province of Alberta. We could change that one alone to special days that are recognized by the Government of Canada, Province of Alberta, and then at the discretion of the CAO. And that way we still have the ability, if he wants to put all of those special days in, he can, but he's not compelled to do so. So even if we just change that one little wording to, or change that the 1.4.4 to the idea that, yes, they're recognized by the Government of Canada and Alberta, however, it's at the discretion of the CAO. That would then, we wouldn't have to worry about taking one out or the other, etc., etc. If he got a request for one, he'd say, hey, look, it's already on here. We don't have to bring it to council. Bam, we'll do it. So I'm just want to empower him to make some decisions that we will,
Councillor Long, then Councillor Stenhouse.
As much as I'd like to pass the buck off to our CAO, that's why we had 4 months of constant arguing over the flag stuff. It is because none of us wanted to make that hard decision. Oh my God. So let's make the decision for him and then put the cart away, because the horse has long left the barn. And I think people don't want to hear any more of this stuff. I don't. So let's make a decision and don't put it on Rod's plate. It's not fair to him.
Councillor Stenhouse?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Let's make a decision here. So, because this is the whole point, is to set parameters and guidelines. And we're waffling here, so no, we're passing the buck. Well, you guys decide how you guys. Okay, I would like to make a motion. Or is there a motion on the floor?
There is a motion on the floor to accept the policy as written.
Call the question.
All right. All in favor? 3 opposed? That is carried.
Done. Bring it back next October.
Mr. Mayor, your mic isn't on.
Okay, sorry. I was just going to say we'll do the CAO's report and then we'll do a break. Can I get a motion on the CAO's report? Councillor Gilroy, first hand up.
That council received the CAO Rod Risling's report and action list for information.
Thank you, and I'll turn it over to our CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Maybe I will give the update on the broadband. I know the committee probably will as well, but the one thing I wanted to bring up is that we did start with the flyers or the mailers. Probably about 40% of the town was completed. Basically, most homes west of 48th Street and north of the highway, I'd say 99% were completed. So a pretty big chunk got done, and as far as some of the businesses done, I'll leave those councillors talk about what they spent today doing. And I think that's the big highlight. And most of the other meetings I attended, I'll let the various councillors talk about them.
Okay, Councillor Danaka.
Who vacated the office?
I'm not sure I can say yet. I'm not sure I can make that public right now. I can certainly do it once they're gone. I'm not sure if they wanted me to keep it private or not, so I prefer not to say right now.
Okay, other questions? I don't see any hands up, but I was wondering what correspondence you received on the cleanup of the Esso site.
Well, to be honest, so what it basically was is Alberta Environment asked Esso to provide some additional, testing or details, and so Esso did comply with that a week or two ago. And it's a lot of technical jargon as far as what's in the soil, etc. And I can't interpret it. I think, but it means something to the environmentalists. But I think on the positive side, they are complying and they're providing information, and correspondence is still going back and forth. So the next step now is for the province to review that information that was supplied, and we'll march on.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the province asked us for information?
Sorry.
No, they asked Esso for it, and so gave us a copy of it. Okay.
That's correct. Sorry.
Okay. Now, I'm going back a little bit before you were even on, there was some talk about the province indicating that they thought there would be new regulations coming into place that was going to force some of these brownfields to clean up. I'm wondering, has there been any development on those? Because, I just haven't heard anything more about it, about these new regulations that might force these brownfields a little bit more to do some cleanup.
I haven't heard anything, but I can dig into it. I know my past life, I was intimately involved in a lot of contaminated sites, and I guess I'm not as optimistic, and the reason for that is there's significantly more contamination that I think people realize, and the cost attributable to these cleanups is astronomical. If our town only has a couple, I think we're pretty fortunate, and I think that's one of the drawbacks. What also does happen is, because I've been involved in a couple of these as well, where a company contaminates a parcel. You start putting pressure on them, and what ultimately happens is that company ceases to exist. And then ultimately what happens is the government sometimes takes it over. But I've been involved in some situations where the government actually puts up their hands saying, no, we are not taking this over. So I've had some parcels that have been actually just in limbo where there really is no owner. So I'm giving you a long answer, but I will check. But I highly doubt we're going to get the legislation that we want, because I think once the provincial government, well, they know what the dollar figure is associated with some of these parcels, and it's astronomical. So I will check, but I wouldn't hold out hope.
Okay, thanks. The other thing, Rod, just maybe when you're checking in on those brownfields, we have the new one, and that's the old Husker Mohawk there, the Mohawk Station. They were, if I understood right, when we had a conversation with them, is that they had said that the legislation was, they had to comply by next year to get their site cleaned up. Maybe check on that, because it's been vacant for a couple of years now, and they said that they've got to clean it up. There's a time frame for them, so if you could check on that too, and then we may need to touch base with Husky to see where they're at with that cleanup measure and make sure that they haven't forgotten that it's here. All right, Councillor Gilroy, hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Gilroy.
Well, I was going to say we probably need to send a note to Synovus, since they did buy that Husky, to remind them of their commitment to that. But I think a positive note in there, and just remind them that although they haven't cleaned it up, we're ready for them to finish their parcel off for that truck stop. I just want to remind them that it's still there, so it doesn't fall in the cracks, because it is something that we can use in this area, and if it's something that is an economic indicator for us as well, to help the truckers out, so we don't have to have all the truckers parking on the main highway, which is at times very dangerous when you're trying to come out of some of these parking lots. As well as remind them of their obligations, if that's possible.
Percy. Information, all in favor? All right, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and finish off our agenda.